This is a Zima Blade, and they sent it over to me. And between you and me, I think it's because they saw my laptop server video. It's a single board computer, and it's perfect for making a mini home server. They actually sent me out their whole little NAS kit. I wasn't interested in that. I got an external hard drive and the Zima Blade because I think, like, look at this form factor. This is unbeatable. I'm more interested in kind of pushing away all the nonsense, keeping it as minimal as possible so that you guys can set up your own mini home server. You don't have to use a Zima Blade. You could use something like a Raspberry Pi or even one of those cheap mini PCs off Amazon. That's just what I'm using because, well, they sent it over. Look, you guys would have accepted it too. They're giving it for free. Why not, right? If you decide to go with the Zima Blade, I would recommend you buy the RAM from them and the power supply because it doesn't come with RAM. You have to install your own. So getting it all as one package is going to run you about $130 still, which is pretty low cost. But then keep in mind, you're going to have to buy a hard drive of whatever size you want in order to get storage on that thing. Before I show you guys how to set up a home server on one of these things, I want to talk about why you would want one of these. And this is a world I'm kind of just entering. A couple months ago, I spoke about making a home server out of your own MacBook. I think that's a tremendous option, but the benefit to using one of these smaller single board PCs, like I said, doesn't have to be this one. But the benefit to it is that it's very low power and the form factor is tremendous. Just take a look at the size of a laptop versus this little 4-inch by 2-inch by 1-inch cube. What would you even call this? Box, I guess. Form factor is really good. This could live at your desk. It could live next to your router. You have a very small form factor, very small package, but a very capable package. There's a few reasons why you'd want your own home server. My personal favorite is a network drive, a personal cloud. I use it to back up my pictures, important files. I could have B-roll on there. It kind of just allows me to access a hard drive without a wire anywhere in the house. So I could be downstairs, just laid back, working on something, back up a photo, back up a file, any file you want, drag it on there as if it was a drive connected directly to your computer. So that's what I really love, is having that kind of just personal wireless cloud. And then if you set this up with Tailscale, which I'm going to show you later on in the video, it allows you to access these files from anywhere in the world. The second reason is Plex. Now you can go with Jellyfin as well. To me, Plex is very simple. I think this is a great option, especially if you're just within your home streaming things to devices. It has no issues playing 4K movies or TV shows. It never skipped a beat. It was always able to deliver the content I wanted to my device. So for a low cost, low power CPU, I think it does a great job of handling 4K footage with Plex. With a Plex server, it allows you to be a little bit more self-reliant and independent with your streaming, especially for those of you in the US. You guys got a bunch of different streaming services. Sometimes you might need to subscribe to 3, 4 just to watch the shows you want. With a Plex server, it all lives in one place. And obviously you legally own all of them, right? Hey, let's get that clear. You legally own all the content. Those are two of my favorite reasons for having a home server. And there's a bunch of other things you could do, but for the simplicity of the everyday user, I think those are two things that everyone can benefit from. If you want to dive more into the home server world, which I recommend you do, I think a small device like this is a perfect thing to do so because it allows you to break it essentially without any additional costs. So if you mess something up, you could reflash the OS, which is not that complicated. There's a bunch of tutorials online. It's not the end of the world, but you keep your home server development experimental life all isolated to this one little device. So you don't risk breaking anything. You run everything on that one device, and it really allows you to experiment risk-free almost. All right, now that I got all that off my chest, I want to show you guys how to set up your home server with CasaOS, which is by far the simplest thing I've seen to kind of entering this home server world. It has a nice, simple, almost familiar interface. You got an app store, you have a file manager, you got all the things that make it a familiar OS that anybody could kind of get into. So let's hop into the computer, show you guys how to set up your CasaOS home server. There's a few things you should know before we get started. The Zima Blade actually already comes with CasaOS pre-installed, so it's basically just plug and play. But if you're using an alternative like a Raspberry Pi or a mini PC or something, you're going to want to install Debian or Ubuntu on it and then use the terminal command to install CasaOS. It's very simple. It sets it all up for you. I don't have to do that, so I'm not going to show it, but all you got to do is copy paste that command into your terminal and it'll set it up for you. If you decide to go with the Zima Blade like me, the ports we're interested in are the USB-C port for power, your Ethernet cable for internet, which it kind of sucks it doesn't have Wi-Fi, but whatever, and the USB-A port. Now, the reason I'm not using the SATA ports on the back is because, first, I'm not really that interested in speed, and I want the compactability, I guess, of the 4 terabyte hard drive on top of the Zima Blade. I think this is a perfect form factor. So having the SATA cables, having the SATA power port in the back. I feel like that's going to add a little bit more complexity that I'm personally not interested in. If you want to go that route, you can go ahead. I'm just connecting this through USB. It's fast enough for me. It's just a backup drive. If you want faster speeds, go with the SATA ports or go with an SSD or something. But I feel like this form factor is too good to pass up. So before you plug your hard drive into your CasaOS device, you're going to want to format it into exFAT. So plug it into your laptop, format it into exFAT, and now you're all set up. Plug it into your device and you're ready to go. So in order to connect to our server, we're going to have to find the IP address. And CasaOS claims that you could just do casaos.local. That didn't work for me. I didn't see it working for anybody else online when I looked it up. So we're going to have to find the IP. Now, if you have a router with an app, an easy way to do that is get into the app and just see which one says CasaOS and whatever local IP is assigned to it. If you don't have that, or if you want to just do everything with your computer, you're going to go into your terminal ARP, -A, and that's going to give you a list of all the IP addresses on your network. So we're going to take the one that says CasaOS and we're going to copy it into our browser. So my server is already set up, but it's going to prompt you to make a username and a password. I'm going to enter my username and password, and boom, this is CasaOS. So this is what I meant by saying it's a very friendly looking interface. It's not that intimidating, and you kind of get the idea of what we're looking at. What we're interested in now is setting up the hard drive to be shared on the network. To do that, we're going to head into Files. We're going to go to Root. You already see my hard drive here, but we're going to go into Root, Media, DevMon, and that's where our hard drive is mounted. Now you could go and change where it's mounted. A lot of people would say to just mount it to somewhere a little bit more, less wordy, I guess. To me, I didn't see a benefit in doing that. This works for me. To keep it simple for you guys, I would just recommend leaving it the same. If you want to do it a little bit more proper, you could check out commands on how to mount it somewhere else. To me, this didn't cause any issues. I left it where it was. So to share it, we're going to click the three dots and we're going to click share. Mine says stop sharing because it's already shared. But you're going to click share, and then that's going to pop up a box. If it doesn't pop up a box, you're going to go down here to shared, and then click the three dots, get network path. This is the box that should pop up. And then if you're on Windows, if you're on Mac, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. We're going to go to Finder, go, connect to server, and then we don't need a registered user. If you want to create a registered user, that's going to be a whole nother video. It's not necessary. It lets you do everything as a guest. But there you go. These are all our files, and these are all accessed straight through the network. We could see everything. So that's how you set up the share drive on your network. Now to access that through anywhere in the world, essentially, you're going to want to set up an app called Tailscale. Now to do this, you click the App Store, and you just got to look it up. It's going to pop up. Mine already shows up. You just install it as is, and it's going to work, right? When you launch the app for the first time, it's going to have you prompt to log in. Now, they don't use their own email and password stuff. They'll use either sign in with Apple or Google or something like that. You're going to want to set up your account using one of those logins. Now, once you set up the account, it's as simple as having this app running. Then, if you want to connect to it from your phone, all you got to do is copy paste the network path into either a file explorer or the Files app on iPhone, and then that'll give you access to seeing all of your files on that network drive. So it makes it really intuitive. It's not going to be the fastest thing, but it's the simplest thing if you absolutely need access to your files and you're somewhere else for whatever reason. It's as simple as creating an account, having it running, and turning it on your phone or your laptop or whatever whenever you need it and you're out of the house. All right, now that we have the network drive all set up, we're going to move along to installing Plex. And installing Plex is as easy as clicking the App Store and looking up Plex and installing it. Now, there's a little workaround that we need to do in order to get all the media from our hard drive working and identified through Plex. So to do this, we're going to click Settings, and we're going to go down here to Host, and we're going to click this. Well, we're going to click Add. You're going to click Add. I don't need to add it because it's already there. But you're going to click Add, and then navigate to where our drive is mounted, right? So like I said, it's under Root, and then Media, DevMon, right here, and then we're going to click Select, right? Once you do that, then you could just name your container whatever you want. I would recommend naming it basically this, just to identify it a little bit better for you. But what this is going to do, you're going to click Save. What this is going to do is going to allow Plex to read that whole hard drive, that whole file area, what am I trying to say? This is going to allow Plex to identify and access the hard drive. That's what I'm trying to say. My mouth is not working today. I'd love to see the unhinged comments I'm going to get for what I just said. Once you saved all the settings, you're going to go ahead and launch Plex. What this is going to do is it's going to prompt you to log in or make an account. As you see, mine is already working. Tulsa King's a great show. I'd highly recommend you guys watch that. But my Plex server is all running. What it's going to ask you to do is either log in or make an account. You're going to do that. It's as easy as making an account and clicking setup. It's going to pop everything up for you. And what you're going to do is you're going to set your movie and your TV show directories to the external hard drive. Ideally, you would make a separate folder in your hard drive and name it Plex like I did, and then have movies in one, TV shows in the other. And all you got to do is point Plex to that, and it's basically all set up. What's really cool about using something like CasaOS is that it makes it really easy, especially with that app store, that you could just mess around with things and kind of just play around with these different apps and Docker containers. And you can even learn Docker by getting Portainer and then manually installing Docker apps and images and stuff. So it's really fun. It's a world I'm just kind of entering, but I kind of just wanted to show you guys that it doesn't have to be that complex to get a whole lot of value from these small little server boxes. Just hooking up a hard drive to one of these servers, I think really benefits everyone's overall quality of life, because especially when it comes to backing up, this is a really good solution to backing up any important file or pictures or videos, whatever that you may have of your family, your kids, whatever. You can't always rely on Google Drive, iCloud, and it's always good to have a few backups. And just having your laptop just like over here, right? There's no wires. I could just access it, back it up. It's a really cool thing, and it's a really nice thing to have where it's just like, holy, like I don't actually need wires to access my hard drive. I think it's just a really good quality of life improvement for everybody, and I think experimenting with servers, getting into that world is a really cool thing. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more consumer focused home servers, maybe just like a buy it and plug and play, set it, forget it kind of thing. I think that's something we're going to see in the future, so that we become a little bit less reliant on these cloud providers, which, don't get me wrong, I love the cloud, but it's always good to be self-sufficient. So that basically wraps up the video. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I'd be glad to help you guys out. And let me know what you want to try doing with your home server, because there's a lot you could do. This is kind of your gateway drug into the home server world. So I guess I'm sorry, but it's a really interesting world. I'm also beginning to scratch the surface of it. So now you guys are coming along for the ride. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.